10 sessions where we are reviewing the art and science of meditation. And we've covered thus far, probably about 2% of the subject. So that I don't want to give you any misleading notions that in the remaining 4 sessions that we're going to be able to really do 100% justice. There is a dimension of meditation you have to understand that you cannot understand unless you are a meditator. Your participation in the actual practice of meditation is the foundation that allows you to really appreciate even some of the things that I'm talking about. And the more you have practiced meditation, then the more you'll be able to appreciate the particular approach that we are using in these sessions toward trying to give us some kind of foundation and understanding why we practice along the lines that we do. And last week we talked a lot about concentration. We're going to continue to talk about concentration because, as I pointed out, concentration is a prelude to meditation. We mustn't confuse the two. Meditation is the outcome of successful concentration. And the vast majority of the time that we spend on any path advocating any particular style of meditation, most of the time is spent learning how to concentrate, how to withdraw attention. And remember, that's what we mean by concentration. Concentration means the withdrawal of our attention that is scattered and attached and entangled, and the senses and then the objects of the senses, freeing that attention is what is meant by liberation or muskah or salvation. And concentration is the deliberate and conscious effort to withdraw the attentions from its entanglement in the senses and the objects of the senses. And it is a long training because for so many years our attention has been allowed to connect with, embed itself in all kinds of habits. So what you start finding when you begin to meditate and you start discovering your own mental habits. Now that may strike you as odd because we think that habits are something that just pertain to the very physical side of life. But actually all habits are rooted, first of all, in some kind of emotional or psychological or mental pattern. And so when we meditate for the first time, we encounter our mental condition. And that makes the path very, very difficult for the vast majority of us. Now, there are always those exceptions. There are always those geniuses, those phenomenal individuals who are able to take to the path and fly straight away into a state of concentration. And that is only because, no doubt, they have practiced some path of meditation in a prior lifetime and have brought those tendencies of what we call some skaras, those predispositions over with them into this particular lifetime. But the vast majority of us, and the mystics say it's not unusual that it takes the average person who is encountering the path of yoga, the path of meditation for the first time, it's not unusual for them to take up to 4 lifetimes to exhaust and break these mental patterns. In lesser yogas, it can take up to at least 100 lifetimes. Now, I know this sounds very strange to you, but you have to understand that the mystics do not see our definition of lifetimes from the same perspective that we see. It is the same mind that has been traveling with you throughout all of your various incarnations, you see. Personalities are changing, yes. The contents even of some of the mind changes, but the mind itself you've had it over and over again. And so when they say 4 lifetimes or 100 lifetimes, we have to understand that they are saying those things against the backdrop of eternity, and certainly 100 lifetimes against the backdrop of eternity is nothing. It's a twinkling of an eye. So God time and our time are very different, you see. But be that as it may, none of us are ever really comforted by the thought that, my God, it may take me 4 more lives to get my act together. And we want liberation, we want salvation now, in this very body, on this very earth. And that is possible. But if you want it now, then that means you will have to work 4 times as hard as the average person. You see. If you do not work any harder, then you will naturally have to follow the natural flow of evolution. Evolution, even on the path, is something that is guaranteed, you see. For instance, you have this human body evolving through 8,400,000 other different forms that life can take on the physical planet called Earth. And who knows how many eons, how many millennia, how many millions of years it took you to get this human body, but you got it. It was guaranteed to you. You just was given that. Evolution just gives that. But after somatic evolution has completed itself, all other evolutions have to be acquired consciously. And so you can accelerate your own evolution. That's the beauty of yoga. That's the beauty of meditation. That's the beauty of spiritual practice and religion. It puts your evolution in your own hand. Now, even if you didn't do it, you will eventually evolve. Everyone will become a Buddha. Make no mistake about it. It's just that you may not attain your Buddhahood for another 10,000 births. That's all. That's the only difference between you and Buddha. Buddha accelerated the experience of his Buddhahood. You will attain Christ consciousness. In one of your births, you will become a Christ. Make no mistake about it. You will become a prophet. You will become a sage. You will become a saint. You will become a great sovereign. But if you allow that process to occur according to the natural unfoldment of the universe, then perhaps we're talking 1,000,000 births from now. You see. If you like, however, you can accelerate. And that is what the masters and the saints and the sages offer us. They offer us a technology for the acceleration of what your potential already guarantees. It allows us to make a quantum leap from the mundane level of human being, just ordinary human beings, to becoming extraordinary human beings. But there can be no force in the path. That is one of the unique things that characterizes the path of the masters, is that there is never any force. Hence it has been called a path of love. Because you have to move out of your own love. There will be no beating you, no threatening you. You will not be harassed with fear of hells or tempted with pleasures of heavens. None of that will be used to motivate you. Whatever motivation you have on the path has to come out of the reservoir of your own love. There is no force, absolutely no force. So the saints and the masters, they're not going to show up at your house at 3 o'clock and check on your meditation. They're not going to do that. Sometime it would help us if they would, but it's not going to happen, you see. Nor are they going to threaten to abandon you and excommunicate you if you miss your meditation. They will not do that either. So there's absolutely no badgering, so to speak. It all must come out of our own desires to move in that direction. Now, we talked a little bit about some of the obstacles to meditations, some of the attitudes that make this kind of application of our efforts and energy to this whole spiritual project more difficult than need be. One of the major ones that we haven't discussed is the expectation of quick progress. It has been my experience that the perhaps most insidious, most universal, and most dangerous obstacle to making spiritual progress is the expectation to make spiritual progress. It scatters the mind. Because when you sit, you're sitting there and you're waiting to make some progress. You're waiting for something to happen. And instead of your attention being focused on the activity that constitute the whole object of meditation, instead of the attention being fixed there, the attention is fixed searching for something to happen. Am I going to hear any sound? Will I see any light? Or have I crossed 2 hours yet? You know, we all are familiar with all of the varieties and ways in which we sit full of these expectations. And these expectations to make rapid progress on the path very often are the direct result of one, either our failure to fully comprehend what this meditation is, or two, on our own ego mythology. When we do not fully understand the dynamics and the mechanics of what it is that constitutes this whole effort that we call meditation, the tendency is to look for results quickly. And whenever you're looking for quick results, you will get discouraged. Maharaji used to say to us that we have to, first of all, break this habit of looking for results. That itself is a habit. Because you're so accustomed to measuring the outcome of your actions. You're so much under the misimpression that your outcome has some relationship with your input. And this is a habit. It is the way we all think. And Maharaji used to always say, then that is the most difficult habit to break, this expecting nature of the mind, particularly as it relates to meditation. We don't really have a full understanding of how many lifetimes your mind has been running. Now, for millennia, this mind has been immersed in, entangled in, caught up in, trapped in the senses and the objects of the senses. And then we think that by sitting for 1 or 2 hours for 2 or 3 weeks, that we're going to compensate for that kind of waywardness. That's not realistic. One of the great mystics used to always say that it takes a lifetime to hold the beloved in one's arms. A lifetime. This is a path that requires lifetimes, you see. So we have to adjust our own attitudes. We have to really work on the kind of set of expectations that we bring to meditation in order to do meditation, to sustain us. And to the extent that we have failed to fully comprehend the breadth and depth and width of meditation, to that same extent we tend to have premature expectations from the path, and we get discouraged. And you have to understand that you should never be discouraged on the path. There is no place on the path for discouragement or guilt at all. Every second that one spends in this effort to disentangle one's attention from the senses and the objects of the senses is credited to your account. Make no mistake about that. Every second that one spends meditating is counted. It carries tremendous weight, you see. So we have to really try to adjust our attitudes and our expectations along this line, understanding the value of 1 minute of meditation. Just 1 minute of meditation. The other thing that causes us to have these exaggerated expectations for results in our meditation is our ego mythology. That includes a spiritual component, because we think, of course, that, well, Bhagwan, I understand all this stuff. I know all the chakras, I know all the regions, I know the technique, I've read all the books, and, I should be, Buddha in 30 days or less, right? But it is our own miscalculation and misperception of our own spiritual plight. We really don't have a good grasp of how impure our minds are. The mystics talk about the fact that we have to purify the mind. The mind must be made pure. By purification, we mean, of course, that it must be made free from all of the barrage of thoughts that are running through this mind. The mind has to be made still and motionless. In the Bible, when you hear, be still and know that I am God, the reference is not just so much to your physical body, be still, although we all understand the role it plays, but the instruction is made directly to the individual who understand, make your mind be still, and you will automatically know God. It is this mind and this movement that obscures our perception, our inner perception, that perception made available by the third eye of the Hindus, the Trisatil, or the eye of Heru of our own African tradition, you see, or the single eye of the Christians. When this eye is able to perceive the divine self inside, then you will know God. But what is it that makes this difficult? It is these two eyes constantly looking out. Even when you close your eyes, you continue to look out in the world. You visualize things from the world. Those residual impressions are still there. And therefore, the attention never turns inward. So, the sages of the Bible admonish us, be still. Make this mind be still. Make this attention be still. And know the God. Know that I, that thing that you call I, is God. Strange. Because you've been thinking this thing that you call I is your body. It is interesting, in the cosmology of the spirit that was first taught by our ancestors in ancient Africa. And when I say ancient Africa, I am talking about those cultures that historically precede the culture that arose along the Nile in Egypt. We have to understand that the knowledge that we find in the archaeological discoveries of these Egyptologists, in the pyramid texts, and in the Book of the Dead, and so forth and so on, that knowledge was already ancient by First Dynasty. Africa has always had a long, deep tradition with this understanding. This, be still and know that I am God. But you've been saying that I am, first the African says, your name, what they call the Ren. You've been thinking, I am Bhagwan. Now if I ask you, who are you? Oh, I'm Kiba Bad Israel. Now, you're functioning from the lowest possible level of self-knowledge. In fact, it is wrong to even call it knowledge, because that's just a name. Ren means name. Hence, the ancient African sages said that the name that we give ourselves is one of the coverings over our true identity. And most of us can never elevate our identification beyond the level of our names. One of the reasons that an initiation rites in ancient cultures involved the changing of names. The idea was to break your old attachment to that name, so you are no longer Robert Gardner, you are Setra. It breaks that whole historical and psychological identification with that name. That was the whole ideal. So the changing of names during initiation was a device to help us free ourselves from being identified with that old name. So we don't know that I am God because we still thinking I am the name. And the name of what? The next thing, of course, is the body. The name belongs to the body, is that right? You see. So you can begin to see now how we begin to make up our fundamental identity of the self based on our name in this body. I am Bhagwan. And when I say that, I point to this thing. I don't say I am Bhagwan and point to there, and I don't say I am Bhagwan and point there. I am localized. I feel I am in this body. All right? So I still am not having the experience I am God. Right? I'm having the experience that I am this body and I have this particular thing. But we have to go beyond all names, actually. You see? Even if one changes one name from a Leonard England to a Bhagwan for our Africa, that is a horizontal movement. You see. The movement has to be vertical. You see. So that eventually you reach a point where you become what the Hindus call Anami. No name. I am that I am. No name. In that sense. In any event, the ancestor says that, well, we observe that normally our identities are constituted of first this name. And it's very interesting because when we talk about the ancestors being worshipped, the ancestors were considered to exist as only as long as their rind was remembered within the community. The moment the ancestor's rind, the ancestor name was forgotten, the ancestor was considered no longer in existence. It's strange. It's a very beautiful thing. The ancient African understood that because of our identification with this name in this body, that even when this body is gone, if the name can just be held on, then you still hold on to something of that person. They saw the name as a part of the person's essence. And it is a part of the essence. It is just not a total reflection of your identity, but certainly your name is a part of your essence. It is a part of you. After the cut, they have what they call the ka'ibet. And these terms are meaningless again. The point is, I am simply trying to share with you some preliminary understanding that we have to have, if we are to appreciate what I mean when I talk about the withdrawal of attention from the entanglement in the senses and thoughts, senses, and object, and return it back to a realization of the self. You have to understand what I mean by self. You have to be able to contrast that against what I call not self, or not complete self. So the ka'ibet, you see, sometimes translated as the shadow. Ka'ibet is the thoughts, the emotions, the contents. After we have this body has certain experiences. Right? This body got its leg broken. It had a burnt on his arm. So many things that have happened to you through the body, and it is recorded in your memory. And because it happened to the body and our identification is totally with the body at this point, then that whole feeling that I am my shadows, my memories. Memories follow us, don't they? Like our shadow follow the bodies. Your memories follow you. Notice how you carry them with you, right? And that makes up a large definition of who you are. Your memories. That's how you orientate yourself. That's how you are able to have the experience of continuity. What is it that makes you feel you're the same person that you were yesterday? What is that? Have you ever thought about it? It can't be physical, obviously, because molecularly and atomically, your whole atomic structure has changed. So many millions of atoms were gone that was there yesterday have been replaced, right? So we cannot argue it just on the physical aspect of it, because matter is in a continuous state of change. A little later, if we really wanted to challenge the whole material basis for your experience of continuity, we could invoke the arguments of quantum mechanics that simply destroys any possibility for you having any matter at all. There is no matter. There's about 30 different varieties of strange particles that the physicists talk to us about now. Electrons and all these other things. There are no more atoms. There are no more electrons. There is no indivisible matter. So you can't even have the basis of the experience from a purely physical point of view. But let that be given. But what is it that makes you the same person, Lieutenant, today that you were yesterday? How do you maintain this continuity and this feeling of being the same? It is through your memory. It is through your memories. Your kaibe, your shadows. It is that part of you that gives you the experience of continuity, when in fact you are constantly changing. Constantly changing. Every instance, every second, every nanosecond, the billionth part of a second, you are changing. We are like the body of water that Heraclitus speaks of when he says you cannot step in the flowing river in the same place twice. We are like that Tao that Lao Tzu talks about. We are a flow. We are a process. We are being. That's a verb, an action verb. But it is this memory. And memory basically consists of the events associated with your physical body. Basically. And we carry that. And so now we add another layer to our sense of identity. The name, the body that goes with the name, and the experiences that has happened to that body. The ancestors went deep into this here. Went very deep into this thing. A lot deeper than we go into it. You see. They spent a lot more time and energy into exploring the inner science of the soul. The next component we find in this kind of evolution of identity is what the ancients called the ka. The ka. And ka very often can be translated as the persona, the personality. You see. Now, because of all of these experiences, these memories, these desires, preferences, and all these other things, we start to construct a certain kind of personality, a persona, that also becomes a part of your identity. When you say, well, all right, if I ask you, if I eliminate your name, or if I ask you to just tell me who you are, and you say, oh, well, I'm Bhagwan, Afrika, and naturally it is implied that I'm this body that is giving you that information, and I come from such and such a place, and this and this and that, and blah, 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 blah. You know, after I give you some history, then I'm going to tell you the kind of person I am. Well, you know, I'm like this, and I'm like that, so forth and so on. That is also a component of you, is it not? Right? And we become very identified with that. You know, When I talk about ego mythology, we're really formally getting into this area, right? Because now you take all of those memories, all of those associations from your past, all of that stuff, and you kind of squeeze it all together into a little ball, and you call that, your real self. This is who I am. You see? And for the vast majority of us, we don't go past that. That's about the limit of our identification. You see? But the ancient African sages said there's a lot more to you than just these things. You see? And remember, they're not condemning any of this. Please don't misunderstand me. I am not condemning any of this. But I'm simply saying if you are only familiar with yourself alone in these categories, then you are like a man who has a mansion but insists on living in the basement in one little tiny room at that. And you have all this immensity of being that you are not moving with because you are restricting, you are constricting yourself to the basement of your being. The African sages went on to discover, and we won't go into the whole cosmology. There's plenty of books on this stuff. I mean, you can read this stuff at your own leisure. It's just that their system is so simple, it's easy to understand this thing. At least, I hope it's easy to understand this thing. But then we find more. They talk about beyond these things here, right? The psycho-historical / physical component of identity. We have even deeper layers of identity in us. We have something in us that knows. They call it the ku. Right? There's something that has knowledge. The intelligence. The intelligence. Because fundamentally you feel you are a knower. I know stuff. At least that's what you tell people, right? Right? We say it all the time. What is it that knows? What is it that holds the knowing, the knowledge? I know something. But what is it that holds the knowledge? It's not the I, because I, right, is the subject. Knowledge is the object, right? And this object of knowledge that holds the knowledge, the ancestors call that's the intellectual faculty in us, right? Now, there are some individuals who are able to begin to elevate their levels of identification of who they are to essentially that which they know. I am that which I know. They identify more with their intellects. Their intellects becomes the core of their identity. Now remember, we find in every category people who have their sense of identity focused in each of these categories. We have people who have their identity totally focused in their name. I am so-and-so, so-and-so. You see what I'm saying? And that's just about it. You have people who have the locus of their identification of self focused entirely in their body, their body. And you can tell because that is the thing that occupies, their whole focus, their body. And of course, those who live in their memories, their experiences, totally focused in there, and so forth. Those focused in their personality, they're just full of themselves, you see. And then there are those who focus of identity is in their intellect. It's a higher part. It's a higher part. Then the ancestors talk about another part, the id. Right? Hard to translate this one. I would suppose that I can call it the intuitive faculties. The faculties beyond intellect. You see. There is a faculty in us that has knowledge, that is not restricted to our intellect. There's something in us that know things a priori, precognition. And some people who are very sensitive, who have moved deep into themselves, become more identified with that part of themselves, even than their intellect. And you will find that they live intuitively. You see, they live intuitively, they follow their intuition. That's who they are, whatever their intuition. You see. So that is even a deeper part. And finally, we come to what the ancestor called the Ba, or the soul, the spirit. And their whole teaching is, thou art that. See? The deity that they created in their mythology to represent that state of awareness that one comes into by reaching this degree and level of identity is Asa. And they created a deity out there to symbolize that. Our ancestors used mythology much like we use scriptures. It really was mythoscience, you know. In some sense, mythology is much more accurate than scriptures, you see. Remember, mythology usually tell the truth. They don't state facts. And please enjoy the distinction between facts and truth. They are not synonymous at all, you see. Not at all. Facts are temporary. Facts are products of your intellect. Truth transcends intellect. So myth usually is the best mode. So they use myth and they use art, right? Hence that whole plenum of deities that came out of ancient Africa, right? Has tremendous meaning because they would sculpture a scripture. I know this sounds strange to you, that scriptures can be sculptured. But I'm telling you, the highest scriptures on this planet were chiseled in the form of art. Strange. And not just in Africa, but all over these pre-European cultures. If you went into India and you would go to the various temples, Bilal has been through Bombay, he can share with you all of his own first-hand observation, and you see all of these temples, you know, with all of these strange, bizarre carvings, you see. Looks bizarre, yes, to the untrained eye. Just like scriptures would sound like nonsense to the illiterate person, would they not? What can an illiterate person understand if you gave him the Quran, if you gave him the Bible? And you have to understand that there was always a method of conveying the profound. There was always a method of conveying the teachings prior to the written word. Do you think people just started discovering God and all of the intricate aspects of theology with the advent of the Torah? Are you that naive? Do you think that before the Bible or before the Gita or before the Dhammadada or the Janavesta or the Tao Te Ching, that man and woman did not possess profound knowledge? You can't be that naive. So through its art and mythology, ancient civilization conveyed concepts as profound as quantum mechanics. In fact, actually more profound than quantum mechanics. Today, we're beginning to rediscover old truths. It's just that you can't follow the scriptures of the mathematician. So when the mathematician scribbled all of his calculus across a board, and that's a statement, that's a language, but you don't understand the language of mathematics. So hence, you can't know a lot of stuff. We do not understand the language and writings of the physicists because we don't understand them. Most of us really don't go deep into math. We don't go where Pythagoras went. We don't go where those students in the ancient Egyptian mystery systems went. So that is a whole dimension that we're deprived of. You see? And there's only so much that can be said in these Bibles and Qurans. But our ancestors used this myth and art. That's the point I'm making, to express a lot of things. Hence, you get these deities with animal heads and all this other stuff. But you have to understand, each of those animals was symbolic of an essence that was associated with that particular deity that best expressed how that faculty works in human consciousness. And again, you can study all these things for yourself. Now, I want you to understand that as we are able to still the mind, as we are able to withdraw the attention into our interiority, layer by layer, stage by stage, we begin to discover deeper and deeper truths about ourselves. We begin to experience ourselves in a much more intense way. It is really a strange experience. You see, you feel more and more and more alive. Now, it's hard to understand this because you actually think you feel alive. You actually feel that you are experiencing that abundant life that Jesus talked about. When the reality is that what we experience, it can hardly be called abundant. You see? And why is our experience of life so superficial? It's because your living is on your most superficial level. It's the only level of your being that you know. And hence life doesn't have that depth. You know. And it is through the process of meditation that we begin this journey to the self. The poets have described it very beautifully. They said that meditation is a journey by the self to the self. Strange, isn't it? Isn't that beautiful? Obviously, like stuff like that, right? Right? It's a journey of the self to the self. From the lower self to the higher self. That's what it's about. And the process began with withdrawal of attention. Withdrawal of attention. And these, again, gets represented in different levels of consciousness, and we'll say some things about those. So, what I want you to understand is that when you're sitting for your meditations, I want you to understand the journey. I want you to understand where you got to go. I want you to have a map, if you will, so that you don't panic. Now, if you got a map that tells you how many thousands of miles you have to go to reach your destination, then you're not going to be worried after 10 minutes of the flight that, oh, are we there yet? You know, you need to know that it takes, 2.5 days to get there, or that's 10,000 miles, so that you can relax, you see, and not get panicked. And moreover, don't get discouraged and give up. You see, most of us get discouraged and we give up because we really don't know. We had a wrong understanding of the scope of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. You see. And that wrong understanding now causes us to define our outcome on the path that's failure, and then we give up. Right? And we start feeling something wrong with you. Ain't nothing wrong with you. That's the first thing to understand. You see? Absolutely nothing wrong with you. Because you can't meditate, because you can't concentrate your mind, you're not no monster. You're not no bad, evil human being. You're not full of sin. That's nonsense. You see? That has nothing to do with your God. It simply means that you have to do more work. So don't take it personal. We take it very personal. Because it's embarrassing, to be quite frank with you. When you sit down and you really discover, my God, I have no control over my attention, no control over my mind. That's embarrassing stuff. You know, especially when we've been thinking that I have all this self-control. But we shouldn't take that personal. And we certainly should not be discouraged by any of that. The very fact that you even want to meditate is a credit. That also counts. Even the desire to meditate counts. It's a tremendous thing. So I want today to make sure that you at least understand enough about this whole process that we're calling meditation, so that henceforth you will be able to protect yourself against any kind of premature discouragement and guilt and all these other things that you may encounter. I want you to understand that this is a long journey from the self to the self that we have embarked upon. Now, let us return to this business about being still and knowing that I am. I am God. I am not just wind. I am not just God. I am not just the Kaida. I am not just the God. I am God. Profound. This is the holy name. When they talk about the name created, haven't you read in all the literatures of the world? When they talk about in the beginning was the word, the Nam, the name, the logos. They got so many terms. And that this name created the world. Is that what Scripture says? All over the world. What is it that we are to understand though? In ancient African spirituality, they talk about how Jehute or Tehute, Tra, created the world through the spoken word. Is that right? So wherever we look, we find these remnants. But this name that we all have, which is identical. Beyond your ren, you refer to yourself as I. And we all do that. I, therefore, seems to be the name of all of us. Right? And this I am God experience is available through meditation. Now you have to understand the immensity of what meditation is, because sometimes you confuse meditation with religion. Meditation is not about religion. Meditation has nothing to do with your religion. It does not matter whether you're Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, atheist. It doesn't matter. It doesn't touch on that level. So I want you to understand, this is not, meditation has no isms. It has no doctrines. It has no dogma. It has none of that stuff. You see, meditation is a very different phenomenon. Meditation is a process by which one is able to have the experience of stillness that generates the deeper experience, I am God. It changes that experience of I am my name, my body, to the experience that I am God. Literally. And those men and women who have had the experience of I am God as a result of being able to still their mind have always exclaimed to the world their attainment. A ancient man, woman in Africa who had made the mind stilled and attained the experience that I am God, that I was mistaken about I am this name, I am this body, but this stillness of this mind has really revealed to me. Always exclaim, Anukasa, I am this thing. And they would carry this on as a symbol of the attainment. Interesting. You look in the hieroglyphics, don't you see the unk all over the place? Mm-hmm. Right? We wear it now, right? But for us, it's style, right? It looks good. But for them, it was not a matter of style. It wasn't fashion. It wasn't a fad. Those who had the unk were those who had attained the experience of a nukasa. It was the sign of the masters. And only those men and women who had attained wore it. The other cultures that claim Aham Brahmasib among the Hindus or Nalhaq among the Muslims, I and my Father am one by the Christians. All of these are statements pointing to the same fundamental experience that is generated and available through this practice of meditation. So I want us to understand what this thing is. It's a very, very different thing. And not to confuse it with your religion, not to confuse it with your philosophy, not to confuse it with your psychology, not to confuse it with none of that. It is that process that liberates you. Hence, it is sung, its praises are sung by all mystics, all saints, irrespective of time, place, climate, culture. Meditation, meditation. But I used to always say, meditate and don't worry about the rest of the world. Don't even worry no more. You just meditate. I used to always say, your meditation should never be sacrificed to anything of this world. Never, under no circumstances. Now, why did these mystics talk like this? If meditation was something that wasn't profound, that wasn't an absolute solution to all our problems. In Luke, in the Bible, Jesus said, once a man has put his hand on the plow and then looked back, is not fit to enter no kingdom of God. This Jesus was a tough master in that respect. Was it not? Not fit to enter the kingdom. What is meant by it? What are these mystics saying? Well, unless you have plowed, in the old days when they would plow, they would use these flags to distinguish their boundaries of their properties, right? You don't want to be plowing somebody else's land. You shaking your head, Dorothy, you remember this as a kid, huh? I hope that you don't have a muse eye view, right? But then a man or woman, in many instances, will get their mule, right? I'm not the artist, that's close enough. And they will begin to plow. And the idea was to fix the attention on that flag and move straight. Now, if you are plowing, right, you just are to plow and just keep your attention fixed. But sometimes people will look back to see what they did. Now, where is his hand gone? And where that mule gone? Right. Done went on a whole nother plow way over somewhere else, right? Then they'll turn back and look. You see. So you could tell the ones that were looking back because it's all messed up. And you could tell the disciplines, the disciples, because they don't even look back. And when you look back, the lines are perfectly straight. Their rows are neat. They're breaking new ground. Right? Jesus and all mystics say that once we have taken initiation, that's what it means, putting your hand to the plow. Now, you should take as long as you like to get initiated. There's no rush. You see? Satisfy your intellect. Don't just be seeking initiation in response to a temporary episode of misery in your life. Very often we come to the path in the form of escapism. Now something is going wrong in your life. There's been some calamity, you see. And so you're looking for, at that point, anything, any way out. If the guru had been a drug dealer and offered you some crack, you would have took the crack because you were just hurting. And you would have taken anything that anybody would have given to you, you see. So initiation is that putting one's hands on the plow. And once one has taken initiation, the master says, never look back. Look, why are you looking at that kaibit and all that material? Don't even look back to your history. Care what you've done. If you've been a murderer, okay, don't look back. It's behind you. You stay focused. You look ahead. You move this way. If you've been a hoe, you don't look back. If you did wrong, you don't look back. Because if you look back, you ain't fit. You will not make it to the kingdom of God. You're going to go off your course because what? You're looking back. And some of us are looking so far back in our life. We're looking back at stuff that happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Just crazy. And then when we walk into walls and knock ourselves out, we wonder, why? But why am I said, you're looking back. Turn around, look forward, look where you want to go. But I'm looking back. He said, she said this 12 years ago, and 25 years ago I had all of these things and I had these dreams. Now what can I do? I keep saying, look forward. And we keep looking back. And you will never make it into the kingdom of heaven looking back. You will never know peace of mind if you're constantly looking back in your past. I don't know how to emphasize this. Maharaji used to say all the time that you must hold your attention in the right now. Do not let it go into the future, and do not let it go into the past. Right? That is equivalent to turning right and turning left while you plow. Either way you turn. If you deviate, you won't make it. So we have to begin to really appreciate these things. So once we have decided, take your time, examine this path, examine all that is connected with it, take your time. Once you have examined it, and out of your highest intelligence, your highest intuition, you check, felt all around through yourself, and you decide that this is what I want to do, this is where I want to go, yes, this is possible. These Jesuses, these Buddhas, these Moses, these Abrahams, these people are right. That there is something to life above and beyond this show, this cinema. And I want that. When you have become a seeker of truth, when you decided and you're willing to pay the price, then do not look back. It's interesting, one of the motivational teachers, I remember reading a book and expressed it very well. And he was talking about why so few people succeed financially in the world. And he gave a beautiful analogy. He says that to making a lot of money, being financially successful, particularly in this time and age, is wrought with a lot of risks. It's like the author says, walking a tightrope, right? High above, the crowd. And he says that the number one thing that causes most people to fail is fear. Because like that high wire walker, if you look down and you see, my God, I'm 1,000 feet above this concrete. If you look down in your life, you will become overwhelmed with fear and you will lose your balance. Looking down is like looking into your ka'iba, looking into your past, looking into your weakness. If you look down, you will fall. Like that man plowing, your eyes must stay fixed on the goal. And don't look down. Because when you look down, you'll be overwhelmed. When we are attempting our meditation, our goal is here, 2.5 hours. You look down, you got 10 minutes. And you get discouraged. I'm never going to make it 2.5 hours. You keep looking down. Even if you only sit 10 minutes, good. That's 10 minutes more than you ever said in any of your lifetimes. Great. You're making progress. That should encourage you. I want you to have a different understanding. If you only set 10 minutes for your meditation today, you're moving forward. Now just keep going a little faster. Don't get discouraged. Keep going that way. Keep adding to it. Add a little bit more to it. Add a little bit more to it. Keep adding to that. How can you be discouraged? If your goal is to save $1,000 and today you put $10 in there, how are you discouraged? You're moving towards your $1,000 goal. And tomorrow you put another 10, you're getting a little closer. That's all right. The benefits of meditation is cumulative. Keep adding to it. Keep adding on to it. One day you're going to become spiritually rich with those 10 cents. I was in a meeting with one of the presiding bishop, actually, of the Church of God in Christ, a large religious institution. And the presiding bishop told an interesting joke. And he was telling me, he says, you know, Cookie Man, they call me, I'm a cookie man, of course. I hear I'm Bhagwan. In the real world, my real identity is no, I'm a cookie man. He said, Cookie Man, he says that, you know, the church is getting spoiled. You know how, you can imagine how a presiding bishop of a black Pentecostal church would talk, right? So I will be spared any poor attempts at mimicry. But anyway, the bishop was telling me that he walked past, he was coming in the airport on his way to catch the plane, and he seen a penny laying there in the terminal on the floor. And he walked past, he said, the Lord, voice came to him saying, Bishop! He said, you done got too big now. It was the time, you know what I mean? Huh? When you used to go and look for money, look for a penny and couldn't find it, right? And the bishop was talking about how, of course, the organization got so big, you see, that it is missing many of its opportunities. But he goes on to say that one of his traveling companions with him, when he told that story to him, he laughed at the bishop and said, Bishop, you said that, you know, I seen brother so-and-so last year. We was in virtually the same situation, and a man stepped on a penny, and brother so-and-so seen him and raised the man's whole feet up to get that penny, right? So sometimes, you see, we have to take these pennies. Sometimes you have to raise up something to get your 10 minutes. Go ahead, get it. You see? Are you become so spiritually rich now that you can't use 10 minutes of meditation? Are you that spiritually wealthy now that you can't use 20 minutes here and a half an hour there? Are you that wealthy? Are you that tight? Are you that full of peace? I don't think so. I hear you weeping and wailing. But you can afford to miss 10 minutes of meditation. Because 10 minutes don't seem like much. Your ego mythology is saying, well, oh, Bhagwan, you know, I should be doing 10 hours. I really feel bad I'm not doing 2.5 hours. And until I can do my 10 hours, do an amount of meditation that is appropriate to my ego, I'm going to walk past that dime. And I'm saying, sure, get the dime. Sure, get that penny. Right? You ain't that wealthy enough where you can walk by pennies. You see? And that is the first lesson that we have to learn on this path. You see? We have to take the time that we have. Because all time that we spend trying to focus our attention on the Lord counts. You may not count it. Lord counts it. You see? Cherishes it. And therefore we should give it up. Now, Sadaji, do we have food coming? I'm sorry. So we will therefore take our break, and you all know the rest. And during your break, try to decide if you would like to meet at 12 for the remaining 4 sessions as opposed to 1. And naturally, those who will want to come for quiet time, you're most welcome. We will simply start an hour ahead of 12 in that case. But you all decide. Or you can keep it at 1. All right. Pick up where we left off from. Now we've laid a wide foundation here, and I am so happy that Desiree and Andrew have shared some of those questions and answers with you on Simran, the spiritual practices. I hope you have found them or will find them very useful aids in helping you stay highly motivated. Now let's come now back to some of the practice itself. Now we talked about dharana, we talked about concentration, talked about how the body, how the minds, how emotions, mental thoughts, and even attitudes are obstacles to this process called concentration. Now, I want you to understand another reason, because all that you're going to hear continuously as for as long as there's breath in my body, nothing but praise for meditation. Meditation, as I said earlier, is the absolute solution. It is the panacea. It solves all problems. Why? Because all problems are generated by the mind. The body doesn't have any problems. It is inert. The mind has problems. And it is the mind that tries to solve the problems that the mind itself creates. And since this meditation, which necessitate the mastery of dharana, concentration, stills the mind, it solves all problems. All problems. So we're going to be trying to show its utility in as many dimensions as possible. Now, you recall earlier that we had a long conversation about karma. We talked about karma being made up of the things that shape this particular lifetime, the pralabdha karma, we talked about sanchit karma, we talked about so many different things, if you recall. But I want you to now turn your attention to the trying to make sense of the statement that many mystics have made as it pertains to the transcendence of karma. What does it mean to become karmaless? The mystics say that there is a way to become karmaless, freed from the effects of your karma. Interesting. That way, of course, turns out to be directly linked to an association with meditation. So we're going to talk about that. Now, again, when we are meditating, we have to have an object to focus attention on. We have to have an object to focus the attention on. In this effort to focus your attention on this object, what you discover that is causing your mind to drift are your mind's inherent samskaras or tendencies. These samskaras or tendencies function along a habituated pattern. Haven't you all noticed, for instance, that there have been recurring patterns in your life? Have you noticed? Oh, you noticed, huh? Why are these patterns continuously recurring in your life? What caused that? Have you thought about it? Why do each relationship fail or succeed, or whatever your particular pattern is? And remember, you should look and see your pattern. Try to see your patterns. Right? Try to locate them, and then try to understand, why do these patterns continuously present themselves over and over and over and over? Well, one of the reasons that your pattern remains the same in your outer life is because the source that designed the outcome of your behavior is the same and unchanged. It is your samskaras, your tendencies, that shape your behavior, which in turn shapes your outcomes. And these samskaras become habituated, what we call vasanas. And it is this vasana that is just broken down through the practice of meditation. Interesting. You have to understand that karma has many dimensions. Normally we understand karma as the explanation for the raw event. You break your leg. You call that, it's my karma. I had to get a broken leg. Right? That is an external understanding of karma. But what is the internal understanding of karma? The mind reacts a certain way to stimuli. You have a habitual emotional mode. Interesting. That is a habit in you. And anytime you are stimulated, you react a certain way. And that certain way is habituated emotionally, psychologically, and mentally. This is samskaras. Now, most of your samskaras, 99% of them, comes from a previous life. Ooh, right. You bring certain tendencies and samskaras into this thing. What do I mean by samskaras? Samskaras are a predisposition to behave a certain way. Samskaras are predispositions to react a certain way. It's a predisposition. You have a tendency in that direction already. That is very often what makes up the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind is nothing but a set of these samskaras and tendencies. And you cannot bring about any outward changes in your outward life without changing this stuff. No way at all. Amen? Amen. And you have to really understand that, and you need to examine that like a scientist. Don't just nod your head and go along with me on these things. I want you to examine it like a good scientist. You decide whether you can change any outward situation without first necessarily changing an inner situation. Try it. Go on and look at some of your kaiva, look at some of your shadow, look at some of your past, look at some of your problems, look at your life and see. There's so many things in our life that we feel need changing. Now try to determine, can that change be brought about the outside? And try. I mean, you really give it a try. Go for it. Because you don't want this just to be an intellectual thing. If you have made that attempt, then you would discover, as these mystics have already pointed out to us ages ago, that no. You have to deal with this. Meditation is a direct encounter with the unconscious. Far more powerful satra than any psychotherapy. Much, much deeper than any psychotherapy. Picks up much more than just a few sexual complexes here and there. It picks up the whole program that is running you in terms of your automatic behavior. And why is meditation so effective? Because when you are sitting in discipline of dharana, of concentration, and every time your mind drifts off the object of your concentration and you, through an act of will, return your attention back to that object of concentration, you are breaking an automatic behavior in yourself for your mind to drift toward that thing. You are breaking the vasanas. You are breaking the habits. You are starving that habituated part of the mind that automatically, when you sit, right, And you will have some scholars run up in you, right? Because the mind don't want to sit. The mind want to do this. The mind want to do that at that time. Do you know how many things you got associated at 4 o'clock in the morning, or 6 o'clock in the morning, or 5 o'clock in the morning, or 8 o'clock, or 9? Have you ever noticed? And what is it that you're struggling with? What is it that makes meditation so difficult? And at 4 o'clock in the morning, your mind has this vasana, sleep. And that is, it is habituated. And it is deep. Right? At 4 o'clock, this is your time that your mind said, this is my dream time. I'm supposed to be dreaming, you understand? Right? That's a vasana. That is a tendency. You tend to sleep at that time. Automatically. Now, when you break that vasana, now you feel it. You're drifting off. That's a vasana. That's samskara. That's that tendency. A predisposition to sleep at 4 o'clock. Straightforward. You can clearly see it on that level. But now you're sitting, and also you find that you have also a predisposition to think about certain things. Notice, have you ever looked at the, how are we going to call it, a map of the contents that occupy your thinking? What are the things you're thinking of? Personally. We can talk generally about it, of course, but as we all know, general knowledge is of limited use. We want more precision. If you looked at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you looked at your meditation, what would your mind all trapped up on Sunday? You'll begin to see these things out there. Either you worry about money on Sunday, you worry about money on Monday, money on Tuesday, money on Wednesday, or you worry about a man, or some woman work. You begin to see a vasana. You will see you have a predisposition to worry about money. It's a samskara in you. You have a predisposition to worry about your relationships. It's a samskara. You have a predisposition in you for your mind to go towards certain kinds of problems and attempt to solve them. That's all predisposition. Those all are samskaras. And it is only meditation that can break it, because samskaras can only be broken by starving. That is the real meaning of fast. When the mystics talk about fasting, the small knowledge of fasting pertains to the physical fast. And what are the aims and objectives of the physical fast? It is to detoxify the body, purify the blood. You all know these things, right? But when the mystic is talking about the role of fasting, it's fasting as a tremendous practice for those on the spiritual path. They're not limiting their commentary to the physical fast. We're talking about a mind fast. If you can mind fast for 40 days, you will become a Jesus. Are you listening to me? Mind fast. 40 days, you will become it. No doubt about it. But how many of us can? 40 days, mind fast. You become enlightened. That's the law. That is the law. Don't feed this mind the thoughts that you've been feeding it. Hold it. And again, it will run out, because it done ran out a million times. Oh, my boss has got it out for me. They don't like me. People don't like me. Bring it out of that. Don't try to fight with it. What I mean, fight with it, rationalize it. Don't talk to it. Ignore it. If you talk to it, if you listen to it, you're gone. You'll never come out of it. And then those thoughts will trigger an emotion. Thoughts, we learned this from our English thing, triggers emotions. Emotions trigger behavior. Behavior results in some kind of outcome, right? some kind of karma. And then the outcome again affects the thoughts. You see the circularity of it all? You have to understand this thing here, because to understand this is to understand much. To understand this will create prajna, will create wisdom in you. We have desire. Desires produces the thoughts. You can almost say they're simultaneously so close. These thoughts produce the emotions. Remember, I define emotion as the energy that makes motion possible, isn't it? Right? Energy motion. These energy motions results in an action. But do all action have consequences? Right? These so-called consequences are also called karma. This is karma also. This is also karma. This is also karma. This is also karma. Right? It's all karma. Then when you experience this consequence from your actions that were triggered by your emotion energy, that were generated by your thoughts, that were generated themselves by your desire, right? Those consequences impact you again, right? And then you got this change. This change has been called the charasi. It's a wheel. It's a circle. And when they're talking about you're caught up in the circle of birth and death, the cycles of birth and death, because we all know that there's so many consequences that you can go through in a single lifetime. Some has to be held in reserve for another lifetime. You all understand the distinction then between Sanchit karma and Labda karma and Kriyaman karma. We talked, you shaking your head. All right, then you got bad karma. What can I tell you? No, I'm only teasing. So check with someone that was here. I'm sure. Abby, was you here with that day? And Teresa, what you got notes? Teresa has notes, and Dorothy, I'm sure, or Bilal, of course, last resort, he has the video. But we begin to see this cycle. So what happens then when we ceased thinking about a thing, when we knock that out, because the desire is already is arising in you, but the desire hits, and you give it no thought, you break that whole cycle. You break that whole cycle. You break those whole cycles. And then when the concentration gets so mature, then even these break, the desires. You burn up even your desires. And in that way you burn karma. So meditation actually destroys karma. If you understand by karma, your conditioning. We are conditioned. Some of that condition is a predisposition carried over from a previous birth. And you have conditioning from this birth that occurred in your childhood. The conditioning of your childhood combined with the predispositions from your outcomes in prior lives now makes you a total slave of the mind. And the only way to break the mind's domination over our behavior, our life, our outcome, all of our experience is through meditation. There is no other way. And this is the hardest lesson to learn on the path. Even after having hours of conversation about meditation, even after reading great tomes and great works and great scriptures on meditation, it is really difficult to really give up our own cleverness, because we think we can defeat God. Now think about that. The mind never will defeat itself. The mind. When you say, I will defeat my mind, who's talking? That is the mind talking. I'm going to tear my mind up. That is mind talking. See the deception? No way. I'm going to make my mind meditate. That's mind talking. There's higher mind and there's a lower mind. Right? And that's where you feel all that conflict in yourself. Right? That sahu part of yourself. Right? And that cool. It's in conflict. Meditation is not the simply the resolving of this conflict. Meditation takes you out of the mind all the way. Because even your good thought, some people mind may have a predisposition to contemplate pleasant thoughts, good thoughts, high thoughts, profound thoughts. Right? Your mind, your attention is drifting on a profound thought. You are out of dharana. You better pull your attention off of that. Even the good thoughts have to be given up. Do you understand? The ideal is to be still. And that is the most difficult thing to do. Because it means that we have to literally die. It's like dying. It is really like dying. And you begin to see how appropriate that term has been, to die daily, die while living. The path is like dying while living. It really feels like a death in the beginning. And that's only in the beginning, and that's only for a little while if you hang in there. That's that dark night of the soul. That's that transitional state. That's the twilight. It's not night and it's not day yet. It's somewhere in the middle somewhere. You see? We have to persevere through that because we've been so used to having our mind focused on that. You know what is, if you are an alcoholic or if you're a drug addict or if you have had any kind of habit, tobacco or anything, then you know that when you struggle against those habits, food, sex, it don't matter. When you, a part of you, you see, wants out. And a part of you wants the experience. A part of you said, no, I'll get A's. And then a part of you said, but damn. You understand? You know, it's about that, it's that time of the week, you see, my time for something. And herein lies the complaint. You see? That conflict is there. So meditation is not about simply the higher mind winning out all the time. Although it's, you know, it's part of that. But it is a complete transcendence of that. You see? That is what makes it so powerful. When you meditate, you are actually breaking down your condition. And that's what it means to be responsible. To be responsible in life means to have the ability to respond. It's response ability. It's the ability to respond to reality. Independent, you see, of your conditioning. The ability to respond to reality independent of your conditioning. To follow the dictates of reality. It's really interesting. You know, you heard me talking about the will of God, the Maj, the Kum. We talked about that on one occasion. And particularly, we talked about the Kama Yogi, right? The yogi that acts and leave the results in the hands of God, right? But the question becomes, how do you know the will of God? And one of the answers that was given to me, I thought it was very interesting. The will of God is that which is going on. If you want to know the will of God, simply read the circumstances. That's it. Think about it. Whatever the circumstances are, whatever they dictate, that's the will of God. Not that. But to do that, to adapt to the circumstances and the realities of whatever is going on, requires you to be responsible. You must have the ability to respond to that reality. Your conditioning prohibits you from responding to that reality. You will respond only according to your conditioning, which contains these samskaras, these tendencies, and that predisposition. I tell you an easy way to look at your samskaras and tendencies. If you want to look at the final formulation or form, or what the African mystics call the aru. Aru means forms. If you want to look at the final form of your samskaras and tendency, look at your attitudes. Your attitudes contain your samskaras, your tendencies. Your attitudes are your predisposition to behave a certain way, irrespective of what reality dictates. And whenever you enter into war with reality, you will lose every time. Meditation is a way to cut through all of this stuff. Far superior to psychoanalysis. You can spend 20 billion lives in psychoanalysis and not get the benefits of 1 hour of meditation. 1 hour meditation, real effort at meditation, is far more powerful than a mountain of books in terms of really dealing with the thing. It really starts building in you a kind of liberation and freedom. If nothing more than just to get up. By the time you are able to regulate your meditation practice, one of the things that the mystics insist upon is regularity. Right? If you could just become regular, to become regular meditator, I don't care if it's only for 15 minutes a day, but to just do that regular. Do you know how many samskaras you have to overcome? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tendencies that you got in you that is already set up to do no meditation. And to get that 15 minutes in, you have to break down all those other tendencies. The mystics said, be punctual. Now, this is really great. We're getting it tighter now. To be regular and punctual, my God, you may have to cut through 1 million samskaras to do that. Because you will come up in direct confrontation with all of your samskaras, all of your tendencies, all of your predispositions, all of your mental, emotional, psychological, habituated patterns that does not want to cooperate or allow you to actually do 15. You think it's not the 2.5 hours. See, you all come to me and say, Bhagwan, ooh, 2.5 hours, ooh, that's a long time. I can't do it because Bhagwan, that's too long. Can I cut it up? You can do 2 minutes. I said do 2 minutes of simmering and bhajan and meditation, regular and punctual, and you can't do that. You don't look at me like you said in Bhagwan Creek. You can't do it. I'm telling you, okay, forget your 2 hours. Do 2 minutes. But my condition is it must be regular and it must be punctual. If you say 6 a.m., you must be there 6 a.m. on the dot. And you must be in the same spot. I want time and space consistent. And I'm telling you, you will not be able to do even 2 minutes of meditation regular and punctual if your samskaras are in conflict. Now you try it. I don't want you to have any illusion. It ain't the quantity of time. It's your samskaras. Do that make you a bad human being? No, it ain't got nothing to do with your worth as no human being. You have to understand that ain't got nothing to do with your ba. We ain't talking about no ba. That's who you are. And that your ba, your worth, your spiritual significance is untouched. Has nothing to do with this stuff. But I want you to understand that The reason that the mystics have insisted upon regularity and punctuality is because just to get it there on the spot to sit means that you made progress before you even close your eyes. Do you understand me? I'm saying even before you sit and get into your asana and get all fixed up and get your pillows jazzed perfect, you understand? With the feeling that, oh, if I get them perfect, now this butt is not going to hurt, right? It's going to hurt whether you got it perfect or not, right? But just the fact that you made it there, you made tremendous progress because it has caused you to ignore certain samskaras and certain tendency to overcome a certain volition, a certain gravity in you. You understand? Isn't that beautiful? It's beautiful. You see? And when you're able to sit now in meditation, when you can be regular, punctual, and you can put in the time, now that lifetime becomes possible, Kiva, that you wasn't talking about, right? Because Kiva says she don't want to come back through this no more. Is that right? You had enough, right, sister? If you can put in any time over 2 minutes, wow, you doing something now. Because you're tearing that mind down. Because remember, after 5 minutes, the mind says, I want to get up. Ooh, I've had it. And you pull it back. You just conquered it. Again, 2 minutes later, go, oh, my legs are killing me. I got to get up. I'm going to be this. And you do that. You repeated it again. Every time you return it to the activity of japa and simbra, every time you ignore its alarm, because remember, the mind is going to alarm you. Ooh-wee, if I be late today, I'm going to lose this job. I'm not going to be able to feed. I mean, the mind will create all kinds of emergencies at the time of meditation. That the mind is literally kicking and screaming because the mind knows that it is about to get its ass whooped. Naturally, it protests. And it comes up with all kinds of reasons, all kinds of... You know what I'm talking about. This is nothing new to any of us, you see. But I want you to understand the tremendous benefit that we derive spiritually, even from 2 minutes of this kind of meditation that these mystics have passed down to us. It is a tremendous thing. So meditation then is even more important because of its ability to liberate us from the automaticity that is generated by our own samskaras and our own latent dormant tendencies that are ultimately responsible for our outcomes. If you have patterns in your life that you wish to alter, you must do meditation. If you truly wish to get out of that pattern, there is no way out. In the Gita, Lord Krishna said, Hare Nama Iva Kalim Nasti. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way except meditation. This is the one teaching that all saints have taught. You see. There is no other way. And that is what satsang is about. All we're trying to do here is come together and help each other examine the teachings critically to see if we have any other option. The great master said, if you can find another way around this, okay, fine, go. You go find it, and then you come and you tell me, and I will follow you. These masters are very different. Buddha said, if you got a better way, I'll follow you. I'm not hung up on being no Gautam the Buddha. If you think you got a better way, I'll follow you. There's no problem. Our task is to see, have we came up with a better way? Is there a better way? And then you have to experiment and see. And the master said there is no other way. So this meditation then is the cure-all. Yes,
You know, we
Lieutenant.
was talking about the punctuality and the regularities.
Mm.
It seems like those two don't really challenge me
Mm.
because I'm used to working around the clock, all different types of shifts. So for the last 16 years, it doesn't matter if I move out at 5 in the morning, 5 in the evening, 12 at night. Those two I haven't had any problems whatsoever with.
Who's it? Now, go ahead, Al.
I'm like them. I don't have
All right,
I'm
now,
used to working
when
in
you,
a 24-hour system.
when you miss your meditation, when you have set your time, let's say theoretically your time is 4 p.m. What causes you, and you need not answer this, I'll put the question to you because these are sometimes personal things, but then you might want to answer it. I'll leave that discretion to you. If you miss your meditation time at 4 o'clock, right, and you not only missed the time, you didn't even meditate that day. What caused you to miss that meditation that day? That's the first thing that you got to examine.
Your job.
Now, what caused you, when you have missed your meditation?
I don't miss it.
I never missed it.
I don't miss it. I'll be up. I can't keep my mind still, but I'm going to get up.
You're going to get up. You're going to be regular.
Yeah,
You're going to be there.
yeah,
You're going to be accounted for.
right,
So you'll be regular, you'll be pumped, you may not do all your time.
right.
Then you see, you have developed some scars in that direction. As you had suggested. You say that you're regular across the board. Right? Even on your work and your job.
Right.
Avi was saying, Obvious has always said that, she's very tired, but she's been like that her whole life. This is not just because you got initiated.
Right.
That was some scholar. It was a tendency, right?
You see, some people been used to going to bed at 10 o'clock all their lives. But what I'm saying, I've had a job where that was broken up a long time ago.
So you're much
That
more
habit.
flexible. All right.
Yeah, a lot more flexible.
That's good. So that means that you just become closer. But now, when you say you sit in meditation, if you go into the epiphenomena now, and you get there, but let's say if your mind has been trained to just roam and just do free association, free thinking, right? And that's a samskara. Now you can get there, but the mind does not do anything. That means that there's a samskara there, right? So we all going to have a struggle somewhere, believe me. You see, just thank God if it ain't, I hope there's nobody that's having all three at the same time. If so, welcome, join the club. You are like the majority of us.
Right.
Lieutenant and Avi of them are advanced people. You see, we start off struggling. Yes, Tony.
What do you do? Now, I wasn't having a hard time until I
Thought about it.
No, I have a hard time. I mean, I can get where I'm supposed to be, but naturally my mind is going all over the place. But I wasn't I was still adjusting to working nights. So I was like having that problem. So I would come in, sometimes I might work late, so I get there like if I get home at 12:30, then I'm trying to rush. So at 1 o'clock I could be there. Then I had to change till, I think, till 5 o'clock. Now I'm getting ready to change again. So sometimes that punctuality, I'm not able to, now I'm going back to days, I got to find a time in the morning where I can do it before. So if you're there and you're giving your time.
Yes, you do the best that you can. The ideal is to be regular, to be punctual, you see, and to give the full time. That's our goal. That's where we want to go. That's that flag. We plow in that direction, right? Based on our own particular compositions, our own particular level of discipline, our own particular level of thirst, our own individual motivation for this goal, all of that will determine on whether you're able to achieve all of that in the order in which you're achieving. The thing to remember is that no matter what happens, you see, keep your eyes focused, keep going that way. Don't give up your regularity and your ability to give time because you can't get that punctuality exactly what you want. You see, don't give up your, any other component of it just because you couldn't get there with, because we're not perfect yet. We're moving toward that. That's our goal. We're beginners. We're neophytes. We're learning how to crawl before we walk on this path. That way you don't get discouraged. But understand it in your mind that you want all three of those components to line up. It's almost like if you allow your mind to just drift into these little thoughts and things like that, then don't deceive yourself when you call that concentration. That is, you know what I mean? Don't do that to yourself. Don't lie. Don't deceive yourself. You see? Understand that I got to pull my mind back out of this. You know, be true to the game. That's the most important thing. And as long as you keep that spirit, you see, you'll keep moving forward. You'll keep moving forward, and you'll get better. You'll be like that person that picks up that dime and puts it in their pocket. You'll pick up enough dimes, and soon you'll be rich. You see? But always move toward that goal. The most important thing is to remember is that ultimately it is the mind that does the meditation. Getting the body to sit regularly, to be punctual, to sit for the full time, are prerequisites, no doubt. They are great aids, they're means, but the thing that we're aiming for is that every time this mind drifts off from the activity that constitutes the object of our concentration, we ought to return it to it. And again it will drift, and you ought to return it. And again it will drift, and it will again return it to it. And this will go on and on. But if you are persistent, and that's why the master says 2.5 hours, because if you can never hold it for just fight for 2.5 hours. What you begin to notice as you begin to approximate this 2.5 hours, the thoughts start slowing down. The drift starts slowing down. The mind has only got X amount of thoughts running through it at any given time. It will exhaust itself. What keeps your mind feeling like it's full of infinite thought is that you keep adding to it. Other people keep feeding you. You turn on TV. And that's what happens. Your mind run out of thought and you start feeling jittery. I mean, you start getting jumpy. So you turn TV to feed your mind up. Oh, let me put me another million thoughts in there. All right, now you feel normal again. Again, the mind runs out of thoughts. And you're sitting there in the room, nobody to talk to, nobody's on the phone. And you got to pick you up a book. You're going to have to do something because your mind is running out of stuff. You see? Well, in meditation, you let the mind run out of stuff. You know, you go beyond boredom. You know how hard it is for you to handle boredom. Most of us have a hard time handling boredom because you've been so used to occupying your mind with something, right? But the mind will run out of stuff, and then it will start sitting still. Actually, almost naturally. This is called Sahaj Yoga. Sahaj means natural. It means easy, but easy in the natural sense. Easy in the sense that it's not anything extraordinary that you have to do other than just follow the program. It's a natural thing. It's a natural thing. And so that is the advantage. Maharaja used to define mechanical meditation. The mystics talk about mechanical meditation as being meditation that is technically correct. You're sitting, you're punctual, you're regular, but nothing inside you is trying to meditate. That's mechanical meditation. You can do mechanical meditation for 1 billion years, you will get nothing. Absolutely nothing. There are people who can sit like stones, like Buddha, for hours, but they do nothing inside. You get nothing. So it can't be mechanical meditation. You can't just be going through the motions, right? Your heart has got to be in it. There has to actually be this conscious and deliberate and goal to hold this mind and keep it from drifting off of the object of your meditation. That spirit has to be there. And that kind of meditation, 2 minutes of it is useful. Mechanical meditation for 10 hours a day is absolutely useless. But one of the great mystics, Swamiji Maharaji says, he said, but the Lord is such that he's so desperate for our attention that he'll even take your mechanical meditation. He'll give you credit for that. It's an amazing thing. So, this time then, of this 2.5 hours is enough. So we have to do this mind fast. We have to practice every day. We have to practice every day. Meditation is no different from any other art. If you're a musician, you must practice every day. I don't care who you are. You know, I don't care how high you rank in your field. You must practice. An artist must paint every day. A writer has to write something. You see, that is the law. You see, that is the law. That is what our ancestors called this. My art is all about. You see, more art. You see, that is a law. And it's like the law of karma in many respects, but it's also the law that, you know, of bringing things into being. It requires that you practice. You have no option. And so meditation is like that. You have to do some meditation every day. If you can't do it at your appointed time, then do it 10 minutes later. If you can't do it 10 minutes later, then do it 20 minutes later. You can't do it 20 minutes later, I do it a half an hour later. If not a half an hour, an hour. If not an hour, then 2 hours. If not 2, then 3. But do it. Don't let the day go by and you don't do it under the pretense that, well, you know, Bhagwan, well, I missed my 6 a.m. call. You see? Now, as if there's no other time. Right? Do the meditation. Yes, you did miss. Yes, acknowledge that. Yes, you turned. Yeah, you turned. You went off this way. Right? Okay, now get back on the path. Just go ahead. Don't look, man, oh, I missed my meditation, or I'm no good, or I'm useless, or Bhagwan gave me the wrong method. You know what I mean? No, I'm giving you the right method. You see? I'm doing my side. Right? You see? You just get back on. Don't blow it off. You see? Don't blow the whole day. I've told you on many occasions, Maharaji said that this meditation should never be sacrificed to anything in this world. And our whole effort is to mature on the path to the point where we exactly follow that. Where we do not sacrifice our meditation for nothing or nobody in this world. There ain't no such thing as they being too bad that I can't do my meditation, or I'm too sick. Your mind just rule all of that out. You understand? You see, you can't even conceive of no time missing. It's like missing breathing. Now I'm gonna miss to breathe. You know, this stuff is going on. You see, you have to do some bowel thinking. I don't know if you can think like that, right? When you think about your meditation, you got to think like a vow. This is not, I'm not going to miss this thing. Now, you may not get there in the first 6 months or a year. It's all right. You'll grow into it. But I tell you, you will get to a point where, because you would have missed your meditation. You would have went on and compromised. You see? Because you got to go through that stage. Yeah, well, my wife, I have not been spending much time with her. It's, I guess I should just be there for my husband. You know what I mean? I mean, you will compromise these things. And then you will see what you got as a result. You will see what it was worth. Now, some people will compromise for years, and then that person they're doing all that compromising for will leave them. Then they say, damn, I wasted 2 years of my life compromising, and this person gone. Right? I mean, so all of us will come at that point at some time. But you will get to a point where when you think of your meditation, you think of it like you think of a vow. There's no question there on this. And like, yes, Lieutenant.
I look at mine like a job.
Like a job.
But every time, yeah, I'll be there.
You got to be there.
That's my job.
It's your job. You got to go.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. You got to be there. It may not be pretty, but I'm going to be there. I might come in and I ain't got my rollers out my hair, but I'm punched in. I'm here. You see, it's got to start getting somewhere like that. Otherwise, it's just going to take you a little longer. Because you haven't understood that this should never be sacrificed. That this thing is more valuable than anything that you got, anything you can do. Because all other attempts you are making to alleviate your dukkha, your misery, your suffering, your pain, are temporary at best. Now you can get into this little relationship here, and for a little while you can anesthetize that dukkha. For a little while you can preoccupy yourself with dating and going to movies and all of these other things and distract yourself from your fundamental dukkha. But this won't last. It's bound to evaporate. Yeah? You can change jobs, change towns, change country, change cars. You can go through all of this stuff, but ultimately, the dukkha always comes back. And once one has had that experience to a point of recognition that, you're going to get back in order. Ma'at means to get back in order. You're going to get back in order. You're going to put your life back in order. What is that order? You're going to have that priority there, right? You see? Somewhere in the Bible it's said beautifully, they said, well, life is getting tough and this is going on and that's going on and things getting bad. And I suppose in modern time we could talk about the Republicans and getting rich and jobs and crime in the street. But one of the old characters in the Bible said, but I don't know what y'all going to do, but as for me and my house, we're going to worship the Lord. That's what it's like. As far as you and your house is concerned, you're going to worship the Lord. Now you don't know what people going to do. What can you do? But it has to get like that. So that is the thing that we need to bring to the path to be successful. Now next week I would like for you to bring some that you can sit in, because I want to be practical. Some of you may not have had the advantage of going through the initiations yet. So I would like to make sure that you fully are understanding all of these different components of meditation when I talk about asana and things of that. You don't worry, I will not put you under the burden of having to meditate, but I want you to at least share with these people some of the suffering, if you will, of it. So try to bring something that you can just practice in a little bit, right? And we'll go into that. I think enough for today. Question.